Everybody wants to edit fast on controller, but not everybody knows exactly how. And mostly everybody thinks learning how to edit fast on controller is super difficult, so they usually just settle for whatever their skill level is. So I'm going to show you some really easy steps on how I increase my editing speed and show you how I learned to consistently hit quad edits. So come to your controller binds, then go to the editing controls and put your left bumper as confirmed. Then go back to your combat controls and go to your D-pad and bind switch mode / edit somewhere on your D-pad. And next, you're going to want to set your controller platform to generic. Then come to your game settings and scroll down until you see disable pre-edit option. Then turn this off because it gives you a horrible edit delay on controller. Then come down to settings and go to auto confirm edits and keep this on only reset. Now you're probably thinking, why on earth am I telling you to turn edit on release off, but keep reset on release on? The reason why you want reset on release on is because it is way faster than having to confirm your resets. But the reason I tell you to keep confirm edit on release off is because confirming your single tile edits is way faster than confirm on release. And a lot of people think edit on release is faster for editing because reset on release is faster. But that's simply not true, and it's been proven amongst tons of pro controller players like G-Money and even Face Sway. So after you make those changes and you turn confirm edit on release off, come back to this video in 1 week and tell me what you think. There's a secret controller setting that will drastically improve your aim and your mechanics. If you go into your settings and then go into your controller options, and if you come here to use advanced options and you turn this off, then the game will make you play with non-advanced options, which are these settings right here. And these settings are just for the new players that don't want to mess with all the advanced options. And I highly recommend you don't use these. But what you most likely don't know is that these settings will still affect your advanced options. So if I take both of these settings and put both of these at 1 and press apply, then go out, this is what my sensitivity looks like, and it's super slow. But if I go back into my settings and then I keep these both at 1 and then turn my advanced options on, then hit apply, my sensitivity is right back to normal. But where the secret comes in is that you can use this to your advantage. So if you have both of your non-advanced sensitivities on 1, the game won't slow down your sensitivity, but it will make you feel like you have a higher in-game dead zone. It's one of the hardest things to explain, so what I'll do is show you this example here. This is what my crosshair placement looks like on 1.1 non-advanced sensitivity with my advanced options on. And as you can see, I'm super consistent. My crosshair placement is really good. And this is what I look like with the non-advanced options on 10 and my advanced options on. It's super hard to stay consistent even after playing on it for about an hour. And even after I got used to it, I was still whiffing shots. So I highly recommend that you try 1.1 on the non-advanced sensitivities while also turning your advanced settings back on and test how it feels, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And in turn, you'll get more consistent building and faster editing because you'll simply have improved crosshair placement. Fortnite just added a new controller setting, but it could completely nerf you as a controller player. If you go into your settings and go to controller options and scroll down, you'll see the quick weapon beta, which is the new setting. And if you enable this, you'll be able to quickly sort through your item slots just like how mouse and keyboard players can. But there's a huge reason why you shouldn't use this. Instead of cycling through your inventory with your bumpers, all you have to do is press RB and then press whatever face button you want to get to that item. But this is only a good idea because it does seem better than cycling through the rest of your inventory the old way. For example, you would have to press your RB bumper 3 times if you wanted to get to the middle of your inventory. And now you only have to press your face button once. And everybody seems really excited for it, and people are already trying to practice and get better with it. But the reason why you shouldn't be using this is really simple. It gives you a huge delay when trying to switch weapons. Let me show you an example. Here's a side-by-side of having this new setting on and having it off. And as you can see, you can get an elimination much quicker because you can switch to your secondary faster. And you don't want to end up like me and get eliminated because you couldn't switch to your secondary fast enough. So I don't recommend any controller players actually use this. Controller mechanics in Fortnite are not as important as you really think. If you go look at the top controller players on the arena leaderboards, I can almost guarantee you that those players are not good at Fortnite just because of their controller mechanics. It's because of something completely different that I feel like nobody talks about. A lot of the reason why most controller players are good at the game is one, because of game sense, and everybody kind of knows that already. The second thing would probably be mechanics and aiming, but the third thing is when to actually take fights. For example, if you take a keyboard and mouse player that only practices box fights and a controller player that only grinds arena, most of the time you'll see that controller player dominate these keyboard and mouse players that only practice their mechanics. And yes, it's because of game sense, but it's also when to take that fight, when to get shots in, and when to get away, and so many other factors. Now listen, I'm not saying not to practice your mechanics on controller, but what I am saying is if you actually do want to get better on controller and win more fights and get more arena points, then stop just 1v1ing people to practice in creative. You need to learn how to be quick to make space, when to pre-fire or shoot your opponent's wall with your SMG, how to properly time and pickaxe bait your opponent's wall, since a lot of players play much faster in game than they do creative, and just sitting in 1v1's creative won't teach you that. So instead, put yourself in uncomfortable positions. The best way to do this is to play 32-man zone wars, Panville's free-for-all PvP maps, or simply grind arena. Stop sitting in creative just practicing retakes. Trust me, you'll thank me later. I get comments all the time what my top tips would be just to get better at Fortnite quickly, so I'm going to share those with you today. And even if you are a Fortnite veteran or you already are good at the game, I promise you there will be something in this video that you will learn. I have some secret tips in this video that I've never seen anybody anybody speak about before. So make sure that you watch the video all the way through. All right, guys, so hopping right into tip number 1, and this one is going to be in our settings. So we're going to go to our controller binds, and then we're going to press our right trigger. We're going to get to our build controls. And what we're going to do is we're going to come right down here to our right stick, and we're going to change this from rotate to crouch and slide, but not crouch, slide, and repair. And what this allows you to do is crouch and slide while you have your build mode open. And this is super underrated because let's say you have your build mode open and you're trying to tunnel in tarp and you accidentally screw up your edit and you make a door and you just want to go right through. You can crouch while having your builds out, and people actually underestimate this one, and it's a big one. Once you're used to it and once you have it on for a while, you will understand what I mean. It is extremely important. But now, guys, we're going to move into tip number 2. Now, if you don't know by now, controller settings are extremely important. So it should be your number 1 priority to find the best settings and best sensitivity for your play style. And this has to be the most frequently asked question that I receive because the controller settings menu can be that confusing. So we're going to go through my controller settings and I'm going to show you if these are right for your play style. We're going to start off on the look horizontal and look vertical speed. Now, most pros use anywhere from 40 to 45% on this vertical and horizontal speed, but I recommend keeping it on the lower side. I've been using 40% for years now, and it's absolutely the best of both worlds when it comes to having good aim and having good crosshair placement when you're outside of your build mode. And I do want to have a little side note there that is important if you do edit with your pickaxe out, just like this, or your shotgun out. And for my build and edit sensitivity, I use 2.0. 2.0 is a great middle ground as well. I highly recommend it, but it also might not work for you. So you need to find what would work for you and test settings. You got to test these out. If you put on my settings and you feel like these are just maybe a little bit too fast, or they might just be a little bit too slow if you play non-claw or non-paddles and can't seem to build fast enough, come to your settings and adjust these up by 1 or move them down by 1. But this is very important. When you do adjust your sensitivity, make sure you do it by just 0.1 increments. So if I still felt like 2.1 was still too fast, I would bring it up to 2.2. And that also goes for the horizontal and vertical look speed, okay? If you're still feeling like this might be a little bit too slow for you, bring both of these up just by 2. Don't bring them up by 1, just try 2. And I recommend you giving those a shot in game or in a 1v1 map or maybe in a PvP map of some sort. Aim trainers are great, but you're really going to want to know what these settings feel like matching up against another opponent. And a lot of other people also ask me why I don't use boosts. I don't recommend them because they take way too long to learn. But boost ramp time, I do suggest for your ADS speed, which is your look down sight speed right here. And you can mess around with this as well in game, and you can adjust this up and down as you like. But I also recommend pairing that with an 11% on the vertical and horizontal ADS speed. This aim down sight speed allows me to hit beams like this, so I highly recommend it. And of course, if you're not playing linear, you're just putting yourself at a disadvantage. Linear is going to be much better when it comes to building and editing and other mechanics in the game. But if you're a zero build only player, I actually would recommend exponential, but otherwise stay on linear. And people also ask me a lot about my dead zone. I use a 5% on the right stick, and I recommend that for anyone. And a lot of people ask me this question, Takeoff, I have drift on my controller. Well, as you can see, I also have drift on my controller. And the reason why this controller drift doesn't affect my aiming or my mechanics or just my regular gameplay is because my finger is always on this right joystick. I never have to take it off to do any building, editing, or any other mechanics. But if that isn't the case for you, then I recommend you getting a new controller or turning up your dead zone. And that's going to wrap us up for tip number 2. And for tip number 3, you're going to get all of these new tips and all of these different changes that you have, but where do you actually go to really practice and actually improve at the game? The absolute best way to do that is by using creative PvP maps. And in my experience, I improve the most whenever I play Zone Wars. Unlike box fight, piece control, or just regular 1v1 maps, you can't take full control of your fight. It'll make your fights completely random and will make you push your opponent much quicker, which is really good practice if you actually want to get better at this game. So I decided to make my own rapid Zone Wars 1v1 map, and I really only use this map because it's rapid, and right when you get an elimination, you're right back in the game. And when you put all the tips together from the rest of this video and you start to see that improvement when using this map, you'll start to understand exactly what I mean. So here's the map code for you to actually start seeing some good improvement pretty quickly. And if you have any changes or suggestions that you want to see made in this map, go ahead and let me know down in the comments. Now, moving right on to tip number 4. This one is also going to be in our settings. So we're going to head over to our game settings. And once we're here, we're going to scroll down until you find auto confirm edits. And once you're at this setting, I want you to come here and turn this on both. The reason why you want this setting on both is for whenever you go to reset your builds, all you have to do is press your edit button, which is a paddle for me on the back of my controller, and then your reset button. And once you hit your reset button, you don't have to reset and then confirm the edit. So it's really easy to be able to quickly reset your builds without having to confirm them. But there's actually still a better way to be able to reset your builds, and it's with a controller scroll wheel, just like this. There's two controller attachments that have completely changed the way I play Fortnite, and one of them is my controller scroll wheel and my control freaks, as you can see that I'm using right here. And if you're willing to pick up a controller scroll wheel, it will absolutely change the way that you play this game. And yes, it's still way better than just reset on release. The reason being is because whenever you pull out your builds, all you have to do is just flick down and you have an edit completely reset. And no, this is not sponsored. I will leave a link down in the description if you do want to pick up my controller scroll wheel or pick up my control freaks, because both of those have been absolute game changers. But even if you don't have a controller scroll wheel, reset on release will absolutely change the way you play this game. And if you thought that tip was good, just wait until we get later into the video. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is how to properly set up your loadout for a controller. And this is extremely important because you want to make sure you can get to the right weapons as soon as you possibly can. And as you know, on controller, you have to swap through all of your items to be able to get to that right weapon. But there's a way to make this even easier and faster so you never get lost in your inventory. So we're going to go into our settings and we're going to go to the game settings and come down here to preferred item slots. Your first slot absolutely has to be your shotgun, because whenever you're building, and let's say you have your pickaxe out, or even you're going to go take an opponent's wall, right when you put your builds away and then click your bumper, you will automatically be on your shotgun. And this also goes for the same thing with an AR. So you always know that your left bumper after you put your builds away is going to be your AR, which is your spray weapon. So you could be always building around with your pickaxe out and then always know just a tap of the right bumper is your shotgun, or the tap of your left bumper is going to be your spray weapon. We're also going to make it super easy to get to your SMG as well. We're going to put that on the right slot. So whenever you shoot with your shotgun, let's say there's somebody inside of this box here, right? And we're going to shoot with our shotgun. All you have to do is shoot and then take your finger and press the one bumper and boom, you're at your spray weapon again, which is your SMG. And if you're using your shotgun, you're going to want to use your SMG as your spray weapon and not your AR, obviously. So it makes it super easy. You just shoot and then switch. Now, slot 3 is going to be our consumable. And the reason why is because it's dead center of your inventory, and that is going to be a non-combat item. So we're going to use that slot for our consumables. And right to the right of that, we're going to have our utility. And our utility item is going to be in slot 4. And it's pretty much the same idea with our SMG. If we're building around and we're taking our pickaxe out with our build mode or whatever it is, and we want to quickly get to our utility item, all we have to do is press our left bumper twice, 1, 2, and we're right at our utility item. That could be the grappler, the Spider-Man mythic, the Aaron Yeager mythic, whatever it could be. That is going to be the best spot for your utility. And the last thing I'll mention about the preferred item slots is this controller scroll wheel. I have my scroll wheel reset down to reset my builds, but if I flick up on my controller scroll wheel, it takes out my shotgun. And if I'm boxed up and I'm healing and somebody comes to automatically push my wall, all I have to do is just quickly flip up and I'm right at my shotgun. And that's the same thing for my build mode as well. So all I have to do is have my build modes out and then flick up and boom, I'm at my shotgun. And that's just another reason why I like this controller scroll wheel. But like I said, it isn't mandatory. It's just extremely helpful. Now, before we get into the really important last tip that not a lot of people know about, I did want to quickly throw out some honorable mentions. And one of those being obviously that you need to play claw or have paddles. And it kind of sucks to say, just not using paddles and not playing claw, you are simply putting yourself at a disadvantage. So you totally need to. And the next honorable mention is to use slow mode so that you can hone in and practice your crosshair placement to really get down those building and editing drills that are just hard to do. And if you need a map that has slow mode, you can use mine right here. So here's the map code so you can practice that. And the last honorable mention is to practice what you're bad at. Get comfortable with getting uncomfortable and go practice certain things that you're not good at. For example, if you need to get faster edits, go run an edit course and practice your editing. If you're really bad at zone wars, go practice zone wars. If you know that your crosshair placement isn't good, go practice with slow mode. Practicing for 20 minutes each day on something you're bad at will increase your skills so quickly, and you'll even surprise yourself. But now let's get into that last and final tip we've been waiting for. And for that last tip, we're going to jump into our settings. Then we're going to go to the game tab and we're going to come to mantle activation. And instead of having this on hold forward, we're going to keep this on hold jump. Whenever you have your mantle activation on hold forward, if you just walk up to a wall, you'll just automatically mantle that wall. And it'll definitely get you eliminated like it did for me when I first started using mantles. But when you have on hold jump, it'll give you the option to double jump and then you mantle. And you want to make sure you're manually mantling and not automatically mantling, because you will automatically mantle when you're not wanting to. And mantling is extremely important. We've all fought that one player that is just super good at mantling dismantling and they always throw you off by jumping up to your builds and you can't even hear them. And it's simply because they're good at mantles. And that's simply another reason why I like to practice zone wars, is because you get to practice those mantles and it'll help you increase your overall skill that much more. So in conclusion, make sure you're using hold jump. So I'm going to show you the 10 most common or most important mistakes that you're making that you need to fix. And mistake number 1 is not using exploits to your advantage. And the most important one being the stair phase exploit. And for whatever reason, I don't see many players actually using this exploit, but only really good players or pro players. So let me show you how to do this successfully every time. All you have to do is walk up to your opponent's box and you have to pickaxe it once. Then you're going to place a stair above your head just like this. And then while having your crosshair on your opponent, you want to jump and swing your pickaxe at the same time. And for example, if my opponent's in the corner of this box right here, you're going to want to track your crosshair through your builds. So when you do successfully exploit in, you can instantly switch to your shotgun and your crosshair will already be on your opponent. And if you have a spray weapon, I recommend you use that to get the wall low rather than just your pickaxe, because you can do it from a safe distance to where your opponent can't edit you if you're at the corner of their box. Now, moving right on to mistake number 2 is not using confirm on release, especially if you're on controller. Go into your settings and go to the game tab and scroll down a little and you'll see auto confirm edits. You want to make sure you have this on both. What this does is instead of having to press your edit button, your select button, and then confirming your edit, you can just hit your edit button, select, and then let go. And it automatically confirms your edit. And same thing for resetting. All you have to do is press your edit button and then your reset button, and it instantly confirms it. And if you're a subscriber of mine, you probably know that I use a controller scroll wheel just like this. So that's why I only keep mine on edit. Now, a lot of people already know about auto confirm edits, but as we get further into the video, these mistakes become more important. Now, moving on to mistake number 3 is not using today's sponsor, Z-League. I'm sorry, that was really corny, but I had to. Z-League is a really cool app for gamers where you can play 20,000 games to earn coins, where you can redeem those coins to get a literal SCUF controller or gaming keyboard. And if you know me, I use a pro controller with paddles on the back, and you can get one like mine just by playing games and earning coins, all for completely free. And you can also make profiles just like mine, and you could use that to find a duo under the LFG tab. And this is where you can find teammates to play with based off their interests, their skill level, or what game they play. And it's super easy to get to know them just by looking at their profile. And it's a really easy process of finding different players where you can just swipe through and invite people to come play with you. And there's also a feed where you can upload and go see other gaming creators' content. And it's really nice because it only has gaming content. It doesn't have any of the other BS that other social media sites have. So guys, go check out Z-League with the link in the description and get 500 free coins for when you sign up. And I'm going to be active on there throwing up my gaming clips and trying to play with some of you guys. So if you want to play with me, go to my recent post on my profile and comment down below. And I'm going to be picking a few people to play with and come run some 1v1s with me. So make sure you're not making this mistake and missing out on Z-League. So go sign up today, and while you're there, make sure to drop me a follow. But now let's go ahead and continue on with the video. Now moving into mistake number 4, which is overbuilding and being scared to push players. Now, if you play creative more than you play battle royale or more than you play ranked, you most likely will develop the habit of sitting back and being comfortable with not pushing players. And this can be detrimental because when you're practicing your mechanics, practicing your aiming, your editing, so on and so forth, you don't go into battle royale and treat it as trying to improve. You go in as trying to win. Because let's face it, if you consistently play Fortnite, you're going to improve eventually. One of the best and most effective ways that I improved as a player overall was going into battle royale and pushing every single player that I saw. Set aside some time to try to get some good crown wins or some ranked gameplay going, and then also set aside some time to only push everybody you see in your battle royale lobbies. Now, moving right along to mistake number 5, which is not pulling your build mode out to reset your walls. And the reason why this is so important is because if you have an edit just like this, and you wanted to reset this wall, you have to look all the way over here to catch the reset button so you can actually reset. But if you just pull your builds out and then reset, it's much easier and much faster. And also another really important side note is that you can reset from much further away. As you can see from this distance, I'm not getting the option to edit this build. But if I pull my builds out and I just reset really quickly, I can. And same thing goes for editing here too. And this is also extremely important whenever you're box fighting, because if I take an edit and I go to shoot and I reset with my builds out, I'm instantly holding my wall, which is much faster than having to pull my build mode out after I reset, because then I can instantly hold my wall bind and the other player can't take my wall. Now, moving right into mistake number 6, which is not practicing your editing speeds. Not practicing your strict editing speed can be super detrimental to your improvement and getting faster with your mechanics overall. So I recommend you use a warm-up map like this, and you come into one of these levels and you only focus on your editing speed. And obviously staying consistent is just as important, and doing these repetitive editing drills will help you so much when it comes to your consistency and your speed. So if you want a good map to do this on, here is the code to my 1v1 edit course right here. And every time I play Fortnite to warm up, I go through level 1 to level 4, and I use the slow mode as well on the harder levels to get that editing speed precise and to help practice my crosshair placement. Now, another huge mistake that I see a lot of players making is using disable pre-edit option. So if you go into your game settings, you'll see disable pre-edit option. If you keep this off, you'll be able to pre-edit any of your builds just like this, or any of your structures. And the reason why this was added is because people were accidentally pre-editing some of their structures, and you'd be trying to build around like this and you'd be completely wide open and you get eliminated just by having your structures pre-edited. So Epic decided to add this setting, disable pre-edit option. But when they added this, for whatever reason, it gives you a terrible editing delay, especially if you're on controller. So I recommend you come to your settings and you turn this off, then go into your island and try to build around, and you'll see exactly what type of delay I'm talking about. And for some reason, Epic Games just hasn't fixed this. So if you want faster edits like this, you're gonna have to turn this off. Now, moving on to mistake number 8, which is not placing a stair in your opponent's box while you're trying to take their cone. Nowadays, a lot of players are good enough to where they will simply edit on you if you're trying to take their cone from above, and you can obviously get eliminated or get some serious damage. So instead, you should be doing this. Try to take your opponent's cone, and once you do, pop the cone open and then hold your builds out while pressing on your stair bind. And if your opponent decides to edit on you, your stair will instantly place and you'll be able to get a nice, easy, free shot on them just like this. But you do have to be super careful, because if your opponent does have a cone in their box and they do end up editing on you, you're just gonna have your build out. So make sure they don't have a cone in their box before you try to piece control them like this. And moving right into mistake number 9 is taking bad peeks. And this goes hand in hand with mistake number 2. And a lot of players nowadays are pretty good at the game, and they'll be waiting for pre-fires on bad edits. And me personally, every time I play Fortnite, I always look for somebody trying to make a bad edit on me so I could try to get some free chip damage. Just some few examples of some bad edits could be the Mongrel Classic, making a wall edit without having a right-hand peek first, or simply just trying to piece control somebody up, but they know to look above them because you got the floor and cone. Try to be mindful whenever you're taking peeks, and stop just blindly editing on your opponent just to see if you can get a nice clip. And moving into mistake number 6 is not learning how to do quad edits. Quad edits are pretty hard to do, but if you learn how to do them, your mechanics can be so much better and so much faster. So as most of you guys know, there's tons of different pro controllers out there. And if you're a longtime viewer, you know that I've tried most of these. I've tried the Hex gaming controllers, the brand new Scuff controllers, and of course my main controller, the Elite Series 2. But there's one really huge problem with all these controllers. They all can be very expensive. And if you're a subscriber of mine, you'll most likely know that I have a scroll wheel and I have control freaks, and my controller's a little bit customized, which kind of just racks up the price a little bit. And I have tried cheaper pro controllers as well, kind of like the Easy SMX controller with the 4 paddles, or maybe the PowerA Fusion Pro, which is $90, so it's like right in the middle, but it does have 4 paddles and trigger stops. And if you've seen my review on the Fusion Pro, you'll actually know that I kind of like that thing. But with all of this in mind, I went out to try to find an actually usable, cheap pro controller. So after about 2 hours of searching the internet and looking at different controllers, I remembered that I reviewed a controller almost 2 years ago, but I remembered that controller was pretty cheap at the time and it was kind of good. And after I made the video about it, I did a giveaway on my Twitter because I didn't need it. So I went searching for that controller on the internet, and it turns out those things are crazy cheap right now. And I got it right here. And yes, this thing was only $22. Hey, whoa, editor Takeoff here. Listen, guys, this controller is $25, okay? And throughout the whole video, I said it was $22 the whole time. So just know this is $25, not $22. I'm sorry. So let's take the advice of myself from 2 years ago. Let's unbox this and see if this $22 controller, $25 controller, actually good. Alrighty, let's get into this. And yes, this thing did come in with a damaged little box, and no, that does not affect the price. I don't know what happened here, but it came shipped like that. Right when you pull the top off, this is what you get. Get it out of this little plastic here. And dude, this already feels kind of nice, man. I knew I liked this thing. It does feel kind of cheap and it's super light. I don't think it has vibration in it, which is kind of dope. I don't like it like that. This is what the back looks like. It has 2 back buttons right there, and it has the PowerA shoulder buttons, which I actually like better than the Xbox Elite shoulder buttons because those ones aren't as clicky as these. And also the controller comes with this 6-foot long If you play on the new Xboxes, you do have a volume rocker right here and a mute button, which is definitely dope if you're going to use this on console. And then also, like I said, the 2 back buttons, which is absolutely crucial if you're not playing claw. And obviously that is kind of the goal of buying a pro controller, is getting paddles or at least some type of back buttons so you don't have to play claw or just play standard like this. But yeah, this movement right here, this sucks. So if we compare this thing to my Elite Series 2, the main difference is of course this controller has 4 back paddles. There are trigger stops, and yes, we're going to use the control freaks on this controller, so that will bump up the price a little, but these are optional. But what we won't have is a controller scroll wheel on here, and we're not going to have an extra middle mouse button bind just like this so I can sprint. So I'm not going to be able to sprint, and I'm not going to have scroll wheel reset. And this whole controller setup ran me about $290. But let's hop in game and see if spending this amount of money is actually worth it when you have options out there just like this, and see if these things are actually even usable. And really quick, guys, I got to show you my controller settings because I know you guys are going to be asking what sensitivity and what binds I'm using for this controller. And also here are the controller binds, and I also explain what the paddles on the back do. So just make sure you pay attention to the video. And already, guys, first impression, the dead zone feels good, boys. I think we're in luck, yo. But really quick, if you guys do want to pick up this controller, I want to show you how to bind the actual paddles to the back. So what you're going to want to do is press and hold this button back here until you see this light right here start blinking. Then you're going to want to press the phase button that you want to bind to one of the paddles. Then when it starts fast blinking, press the paddle that you want that to be binded to. And now we can use those back paddles. And the left one is my build mode, and the right one is my edit. All right, so first impressions. Oh wait, this thing does not have input delay. Yo, okay, I will say the dead zone does feel a little bit higher. It just feels like I'm playing on maybe like an 8 dead zone, not a 5. And you know, not having trigger stops, I actually thought it was going to be a lot worse than it is, but these triggers are really nice. I'm actually pretty impressed. Now I asked you guys in my community poll to see how you guys wanted me to put these 2 controllers to the test, and how you wanted me to see if paying $300 is actually worth it or not. And a lot of you guys wanted to see what it feels like in arena or pubs, to see how the aim assist feels on it, to see if it feels any different. But before we do that, we're first going to compare the drift stick on this controller compared to the $22 controller. Now, as you guys can see, I do have drift stick on the Elite Series 2. Sometimes if I put it at the right angle, it'll drift, but it's usually not a big problem. But this is $300, which is kind of ridiculous. Most controller companies haven't figured out how to get rid of drift stick, and it's pretty frustrating. But when we go to the Power A Enhanced controller, and yes, I'm still on a 5 dead zone, as you can see right below my hand cam. I'm going to back out with no cuts, and as you guys can see, even when I try to make any type of drift stick happen on this controller, there is 0 drift stick. Like nothing. There is literally no drift stick. And yes, I'm still on 5 dead zone. I was on my Elite controller too. So honestly, the $22 controller wins on the drift stick side. And of course, I've had my Elite Series 2 for a lot longer, so it could just because it's new, it could maybe get dead zone in the future. I don't know, but out of the box, it's good to go. Thanks a lot, Kaden, for the question, and let's move on to the next one. Now, the next recommendation is from Lambo. He wants me to do an edit race, so we're gonna go do an edit course, see if I can actually have any type of fast edits on this controller. All right, let's see how the resets feel. Scroll wheel reset. Oh, just kidding. Okay, one thing I'll say is my double edits are not as fast, and I think it's because I don't have trigger stops. Oh my god. But yeah, my double edits are not as fast. Yeah, I'm not as fast as I am on the Elite, but this is still pretty good. It still feels solid. Yeah, I'm not as fast, but it's still pretty good. All right, so there you have it. As you can see, I'm definitely not as fast as I am on the Elite 2. But I mean, as you saw, I'm still pretty quick on it, and I'm definitely not used to it. I still think it's pretty good. And Lambo, of course, thanks so much for the question, bro. And Aeon asked to go ahead and go into late game arena, which I'm most likely going to do pubs because late game arena is broken right now. Guys, I'm just kidding. We actually got to a late game arena game. Bop. Give me that. Oh, this guy's a psycho. How is he not dead? No way. They just took my kill. Bop. Let's go. We're getting the cleanups here. Let's go, baby. Oh my god, that's 3 for 3. No way. Let's go. Oh my god. Oh my god, where'd my aim assist go? No aim assist. Holy smokes, thank god. No. All right, well, so far, I mean, this controller is definitely feeling pretty good. Mechanics wise, this controller is already feeling pretty solid, I'm not gonna lie, but aiming wise, not as much. That's why I'm kind of scared to push people. Maybe I take back my words. Thank god I killed that kid, because I hate the charge. Come here, boy. Later. Oh my god, that guy's got to be so weak. Oh, wow, bro. Okay, well, I guess he doesn't know how to come in his own. That guy was kind of a bot. Let's go. We got it done. Guys, listen, if I had to rate this thing 1 out of 10 just for the features that it has, it does the job really well. I'd have to give it like an 8 out of 10. I really like the paddles. The dead zones aren't bad. The triggers and bumpers feel awesome. And for $22, you just can't really beat that. But to answer the big question, is it really worth $300 to have a scroll wheel, to have all these attachments and extra paddles? No. It's not worth spending all of this money on all this extra stuff compared to what you get for this. Now, if you could afford to buy a nicer Pro controller, do it. And yes, of course, the Elite is nicer and it's better in almost every way. But 9 times out of 10, I'm choosing this thing even over a regular stock Xbox controller. It feels that nice. And of course, with the extra paddles on the back, it's 100% worth it. And listen, if you watch the video to this point, comment down below 100K since we're so close to hitting 100,000 subscribers. I want to see who the real ones are and who actually watches my full videos. And also, guys, there is a crucial reason why you're not improving on controller, and that question's answered right here in this video. So go ahead and click the video so you can make sure you're not making this mistake, and I'll see you in there. And thanks for watching to the very end. Much love. Peace.